Got some new data in on pay increases during the pandemic that is probably not going to surprise you, but is nevertheless blood boiling. So this is according to a new analysis written up by Luke Savage in Jacobin. Average pay increased for CEOs at 51 of the biggest 100 low-wage companies in 2020 by 29%. Meanwhile, wages decreased for those frontline workers that everybody spent all their time praising and pretending like they were going to give bonuses and extra pay to. Those same companies, their wages decreased by 2%. And of course, the average ratio of CEO pay to worker pay continued to go up. And there's some particularly outrageous details within this report. One of which is that a lot of these companies pretended like the CEOs made a big show of saying they were taking pay cuts because of the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, what they were actually doing was modifying their pay practices, because a lot of these CEOs, most of their compensation doesn't come from salary. It comes from stock, bonuses, and all these sorts of things. So they modified their pay practices so they would still end up getting this gigantic 29% increase in the year of the pandemic, while they could publicly go out and pretend like they were selfless and they were taking a cut for the team. Another blood-boiling detail here is that the Hilton Hotel's CEO got a payout of $56 million last year. That's 1,953 times his company's median worker pay. Meanwhile, guess what? Hilton had a very tough year. They laid off thousands of employees at the same time that the CEO is getting this outrageous pay. So just a little bit of a window into just how screwed most people got during the pandemic, while some people were getting wildly richer than ever before.
Yeah, I think it's wild. And I still think the most disgraceful thing that happened during the pandemic is our inability to provide for a lot of those frontline, who are also all the people who are getting sick, right? Like most average white working class or white collar workers were able to stay at home, disproportionately did not get sick, much less at risk, and a lot more of the essential workers, the ones who did. And in terms of the temporary increases that they got in pay, that was sporadic at worst in terms of brand by brand. And there were government programs and abilities which, if people had gotten behind, could have happened. I mean, I remember Mitt Romney put forward at the very early months of the pandemic something called Patriot Pay, which would have increased their pay by $12 an hour, 3/4 paid by the government, 1/4 paid by the brands themselves. We easily could have done that. And it just says everything that had no constituency, that Trump didn't push anything like that. It never passed through Congress. It was dead upon arrival. All everybody got were 2 checks. And I mean, I don't want to downplay that. It probably made a significant impact. But I think when it mattered, a lot of these people were abandoned. And also, that's critically why we see what Heather Long calls the Great Reassessment of America. A lot of people who were bartenders, Uber drivers, people who worked at grocery stores, like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. It's not even necessarily about unemployment. It's like, I literally hate this job, or it really sucked for the last year, and I just don't want to take a part in it.
The employer made me risk my life for $7.25. Like, I'm going to figure something else out.
And even at 15, it's not necessarily worth it.
The grocery store numbers are really revealing, because grocery stores boomed this year. I mean, they couldn't keep things on the shelves. There were runs on toilet paper and this and that and sourdough baking ingredients and all that stuff. And you had a decline in that workforce of 40,000 people who were like, I don't want to be on the front lines for low wages. I'm going to figure something else out. And so you also think about, in the context of, and Luke makes this point in the piece, like, the debates that we're having now are, was $300 a month too generous? You know, should we means test further the payments that we send out? Maybe raising the corporate taxes or raising the taxes on the wealth, maybe that's going too far. You see from these dynamics the way things always continue to move in the direction of the wealthy. Not only do they continue to increase their share of the pie, but the Congress always protects their interests, always is worried about them not getting all of their loopholes that are designed to make sure that they pay very little in taxes, and always looking on the other side to make sure that life is like so brutal for workers that they're forced back in to those low wage jobs with very high health risks. So incredibly revealing data here.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, more Rising for you after this.